Good morning. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, the #1 source for political events right here in the United States of America. I'm Robert McNeely. As we gear up today, President Trump holding a great American agriculture celebration right there at the White House. Roughly 1 hour from now, we will take you there live as we recap what's happening inside and outside of the Beltway. In the early morning hours, right around 3 to 4 o'clock, the Senate passing its structure to partially fund DHS through the TSA. Of course, the Department of Homeland Security, an umbrella agency that Secretary Markwayne Mullin just taking over days ago that encompasses roughly 10 smaller agencies, but close to 1/3 of the federal government's discrepancy spending and overall spending. So a big piece of the government as a whole. That goes through Democrats failing on their alleged reforms for ICE and Border Patrol. Two of those things they were requesting, demanding in fact, that ICE agents never have masks out in the field. Of course, Border Czar Tom Homan, who is at CPAC, we'll go to him from his remarks yesterday over the course of the show, but willing to sit down with not only the Minnesota leaders who effectively failed the people there up earlier in January and February, but wanting that masking off of them completely and agreeing to that when it comes to what's happening at the airports. Our ICE agents actually handing out water bottles, but when it comes to going after criminal, illegal, dangerous aliens in this country, the administration did not balk at that. And in turn, the administration offering the badge numbers to be worn, the body cams to be worn, all led through Border Czar Tom Homan's great work in his negotiations with Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison, Mayor Jacob Frey in Minneapolis, Minnesota earlier this year, if you remember. So all of that happening there. They also wanted warrants, the Democrats, before people were to be expelled or deported, although they're already criminal, illegal aliens, something that the law doesn't work that way. So we now have that passing the Senate. It's being discussed right now in the House of Representatives. We'll bring you any of that breaking news, as that will be, I'm sure, rushed to the president's desk for a signature to get our TSA agents paid after 42 days of this nonsense. And now the Senate, they've already left town. 2 weeks off for the Easter holiday. And as we enter Holy Week, it must be nice to be in Article 1 and a member of Congress to take all that time off. So these are important midterms. Get involved where you can and make sure that that Republican majority remains intact to serve the MAGA agenda. Now, earlier this week, actually yesterday, the cabinet meeting, President Trump surrounded by his cabinet, and with cut number 1, Secretary Rubio detailing Iran and Operation Epic Fury in its current stages.
The most important job any president has is to keep the American people safe. And every president says it, but we have a president that means it and does something about it. As the president outlined very clearly to the world on the night this operation began, Iran has been at war with the United States for 47 years. For 47 years, Iran has been killing Americans and attacking Americans across this planet. And other presidents had an opportunity to do something about it. And they all warned about how Iran was dangerous, but they refused to act. And this president's not someone that's going to refuse to act. He's not going to leave a danger like this in place. He's going to address it, and that is what he is doing. From the very first night of this operation, the president made it very clear. People like this, and now what I'm talking about is not the people of Iran. The people that run this country are radical Shia clerics. These are religious fanatics. Look what they are doing now. At their weakest point, this is the weakest Iran has ever been, and look at what they're doing. They're attacking embassies. They're attacking hotels. Imagine what these people would do if they had a nuclear weapon. That is an unacceptable risk for the world. By the way, the president's not just doing a favor to the United States and to our people. This is for the world. He defined very clearly on the first night of this operation what the goal was. We were going to destroy Iran's Navy, and that is happening. We were going to, if it hasn't already happened, I'll let Pete speak to the specifics of it. We were going to destroy their missile launching capabilities. We're well on our way to achieving that goal. We were going to destroy the factories so they couldn't make more missiles and more drones, and that is moving forward. Every single objective the president clearly laid out on the first night of this operation is being effectuated. Again, Pete will speak to the specifics of it. This has been an incredibly successful operation. Every day, it may not get covered because, we're unlike them. We're not bombing embassies and hotels. We're hitting military targets. But every day, the Department of War lets the drummer get wicked over every portion of Iran that has these military capabilities, and the results are going to bear fruit for the world. The world is going to be a safer and a better place when President Trump's mission here is achieved. And frankly, I think countries around the world, even those that are out there complaining about this a little bit, should actually be grateful that the United States has a president that's willing to confront a threat like this and not allow it to continue to persist. Because these people will kill as many Americans as they have a chance to do, and if they have a nuclear weapon, as the Vice President pointed out, they could kill millions of Americans in the future, and that is a risk that was not going to continue to exist as long as we had this president.
And as the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, pointing out those cold, hard facts of the Iranian regime, 48 years of terror with nearly a dozen proxies around the Middle East and around the globe, including Hezbollah and Hamas, most recently responsible for the October 7th, 2023 attacks on Israel, including 47 Americans that suffered at the hands of these radical Islamic terrorists. Secretary Pete Hegseth of War following Secretary of State Marco Rubio in the details on the updates of Operation Epic Fury.
And 27 days ago, Iran had a modern military. Never in recorded history has a nation's military been so quickly and effectively neutralized. Operation Epic Fury is not an endless war. It's a decisive campaign with clear objectives to destroy Iran's offensive military capabilities and ensure they never obtain a nuclear weapon. This is stuff for the history books. This is stuff for legacy. Mr. President, you are acting now to ensure future generations do not have to live under the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran. However, you wouldn't know it if you listened to the dishonest hate Trump media, as you referenced. The folks here in the room, these cameras, they have a choice. You're either informing the American people of the truth or you're not. Because I hear it from my people every day. Behind every headline you write, there's a helicopter crew in the air. And behind every news banner you write, there's a battalion on the move. And behind every fake news story, there's an F-35 pilot executing a dangerous mission. My message to the media is get it right. This actually isn't something new to me. I may be a young guy, Mr. President, but I'm not a rookie in this realm. In 2007, I helped lead the surge, the public fight for the Iraq surge. Stood and watched people stand in the Senate and declare the war is lost before it even started. Who was that? It was Harry Reid. That was the Democrats and the media working hand in glove. Back then, it was 3 years into a war. Now we're 3 weeks into an operation. But see, unlike Iraq, this isn't a tie. This is not parody. This is not chaos. This is success, pure American success, on plan, and as the president said, ahead of pace. Over 10,000 enemy targets destroyed, over 140, I think now you're right, Mr. President, over 150 naval vessels sunk, underground facilities destroyed, their defense industrial base in shambles, and overnight, not only do they not have a Navy, Mr. President, they no longer have a Navy commander. IRGC's Navy commander was killed overnight in operation. So no Navy leader. Now that here's the thing about the media, though. If President Trump had not acted, you'd be screaming, why not? And now that he has taken decisive action, you're asking, well, why did you? It's the same old tired playbook, TDS in your DNA. But the hardworking, God-fearing, patriotic Americans out there know better. And you alluded to this, President Obama, Mr. President. Here's a fact that you don't hear on your networks, but we know. Many of the Iranian military factories and bases that we're systematically destroying were paid for by the pallets of American cash that Barack Obama flew into Tehran under the Iran deal. You might call it an inconvenient truth. Iran took our money and turned it into weapons and bunkers and ammo. And now we're destroying those weapons, and you're writing, Mr. President, that grievous wrong. And make no mistake, we had to act. And our objectives are clear. No nukes, no Navy, and a complete dismantling of their missile program and defense industrial base. And as Marco pointed out, that mission, and the VP as well, has not changed since day one. Yet, 2 days ago, they shot 2 failed missiles on a target 4,000 kilometers away. For years, they told the world that their missiles could only range 2 kilometers. Surprise. Yet again, Iran lied. And to the world, I say London is 4,000 kilometers from Iran. Washington, D.C. is 3,300 kilometers from Venezuela, another country President Trump did something about that partnered for a long time with Iran. So you're telling us that Iran is not a threat to the world or to the U.S. President Trump knows better. And here's what success actually looks like right now. You mentioned it, Mr. President. A-10 Warthogs, if you know them, you love them, and Apache helicopter gunships are flying strike missions inside Iranian airspace and throughout the Strait of Hormuz at will. See, you only send these slow, low-flying, close air support platforms when the enemy has no meaningful air defenses left. Their presence is proof that Iran's air defenses are gone. Their command and control is shattered, their top leaders hiding in underground bunkers, while their mid-level commanders are being crushed in the field, the morale of their fighters plummeting, and we see that disconnect daily. They're privately admitting, as you said, Mr. President, very heavy losses. We know that. President Trump has given us a clear mission. Our capabilities are only going up and Iran's are plummeting. We are here to win, and we're full speed ahead. So, Steve, we appreciate your efforts. We pray for a deal, and we welcome a deal, and we have the ultimate deal maker to make it happen. But in the meantime, as I said yesterday, the Department of War will continue negotiating with bombs. War is negotiation by other means. And finally, I want to thank our incredible troops, our pilots, crews, sailors, refuelers, air defenders, the absolute best of America, the real 1% of our country. This president, President Trump, has your back. And I know this cabinet prays for you every single day, and we ask the American people to do the same as they continue in this mission. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great.
And we join the Secretary of War and the Pentagon praying for our troops in harm's way. It's duly noted that more U.S. service members passed away through routine exercises last year than in this engagement, where we've lost 13 thus far. And every loss of life is a tragedy. It affects every family in a terrible way, including right here in Auburn, Alabama, where that Western Iraq flyover had that terrible accident, losing 6 incredible officers. So we are grateful for our military and a United States Army that has recently increased its age limit to 42. The meritocracy is back in the military, as we had a former President, Barack Hussein Obama, put in his DEI initiatives carried on by the Autopen and Joseph R. Biden Jr., with someone like Secretary Lloyd Austin, who is more concerned about feelings over wartime readiness. The Army, the Navy, our Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Space Force, the entirety of the United States military in much better hands now, with Commander-in-Chief focus on lethality, including his Secretary of War. And it's duly noted as well that this week, findings that $200 million plus potentially in campaign kickbacks for the Bidens. We'll see if there is truly liberty and justice for all in regards to Ukrainian money shuffled and presented to him during that re-election effort, and how many countless members of Congress benefited financially, both Republican and Democrat, from the Russia-Ukraine war. Something that we'll continue to look into as economic security is at the forefront with national security. Cut number 3, Secretary Bessent detailing that in the recent operations and how we can continue down the road to the future, 99 days from now, our 250th birthday.
Economic leadership has made our military mission possible. Mr. President, national security, as you always say, is economic security. Your leadership has shown the American people that there is no prosperity without security, that our mighty military on one side, but the U.S. economic strength is fighting off this evil regime. The Iranians believe they are fighting a two-front war. It is the military war that our great warriors are prosecuting, but on the other side, they are trying to take control of the global economy through a choke point that we believe does not exist and that we will overcome. The historic Operation Epic Fury seized a generational opportunity to demolish a regime that has coordinated over 4 decades of global terror and claimed thousands of American lives. Many people, especially the Democrats, underestimate the will of the American people for short-term volatility for 50 years of safety that we are going to have on the other side of this. And I believe energy prices will be lower, inflation will be lower before we had the appearance of security, which is not real security. Now, the American people and the world will have absolute security. Through your maximum pressure campaign, Treasury has worked to uncover all financial lifelines through the regime and cut them off. You gave that order last March. This was not something that happened overnight. This is something that has been contemplated for almost a year. The Iranian financial system collapsed in December. We have systematically weakened Iran's ability to fund operations and procure weapons, and that required months of preparations. Threats to American national security have no place in the global economic system. The oil market is well supplied. We have taken actions to ensure oil supplies stranded at sea are made available to the global market. Your bold actions, like the Development Finance Corporation's Maritime Reinsurance Program, in conjunction with Central Command, will soon provide shippers through the Gulf region with a level of security we have never seen before. Mr. President, we are starting to see more and more movement in and out of the Gulf today, and this is more than yesterday, and this is the beginning. I am confident that shipping traffic will continue to increase on a daily basis, even before we secure the straits. Turning to the home front, the U.S. economy remains strong. We had a strong economy thanks to you. We are the best insulated in the world thanks to your energy efforts in Term 1 and Term 2. The U.S. is an energy superpower. American workers' purchasing power is finally being restored. The latest figures indicate robust real compensation increases. We are starting to see the working family tax cuts benefits bearing fruit this tax season. 44% of tax returns have claimed at least one of your signature policies: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. The average tax refund is up more than 10% for working Americans. The economy you vitalized through your pro-growth policies is well positioned to withstand these temporary disruptions. The United States dollar has reasserted itself as a safe haven asset. The U.S. dollar has appreciated since the hostilities began because everyone knows, thanks to your efforts, the U.S. economy is the best position in the world and capital is flowing in. Efforts to reprioritize economic security are ensuring the United States remains secure, resilient, and prepared for the challenges ahead. As we approach the 250th anniversary, America will never be safer and more secure militarily and economically. Thank you.
In between President Trump's comments and rounding out really the cabinet discussion yesterday, Secretary Doug Burgum of Interior highlighting Venezuela, lest we forget that remarkable operation from earlier this year. And although I'm thrilled about my alma mater going to the Elite Eight in March Madness, still a little bit irritated that Venezuela pulled off that upset against the United States of America back on St. Patrick's Day in the World Baseball Classic, as we're now underway for Major League Baseball and America's Classic. That was, again, 3-2 on March 17th in Miami, Florida. But the Secretary talking about how Americanized the Venezuelan people are in our hemisphere and how much we can relate to one another, especially in Miami, Florida, with cut number 4.
Well, back on Venezuela, where Chris and I have both had a chance to be there, I literally think they're going to put up a statue to President Trump. And I'm not being, it's not a political statement, it's an actual thing.
So. That would be a great honor.
No, because it's like they view President Trump like Simon Bolivar. He's the liberator of a country, and this is a country where they love American baseball. You look on the street, they're wearing NBA jerseys, and Delcy and her team working with us, getting back. Chris and I both experienced, it was the first time in Venezuelan history that they had the free press allowed to come on to essentially where the White House, the Palacio Miraflores, and it was an emotional thing for people that had been for 20 years had never had a chance to be there. So whether it's and then production, it's showing up in production. The American companies that are coming back, most of those American companies have many American Venezuelan team members. One company in Houston's got 600 Venezuelan Americans that know more about reviving that industry. So their GDP is 1/4 of what it was before. They want to get back. They remember what it was. Their production on oil production is climbing towards 50% increase just in the 3 months we've been here. That flows to American refineries on the Gulf Coast, lowering the price of gas in America. So
forget that. When are they going to do the statue? The hell with you.
And the Venezuelan people apparently will put up a statue of President Trump for liberating the country. We'll watch to see that, as he'd be the first sitting United States president to put his name on the dollar bill in the next batch of Treasury deposits. And very excited to see all of that. Brandon Beach, the Secretary of the United States Treasurer, mind you, is informing us of that. And from one great Georgian who served in the state Senate, we had the opportunity to speak with Dr. Randall Trammell, who's running in the Peach State for school superintendent. So how do all these issues, whether it's economic to what's happening abroad with Operation Epic Fury to what's happening in the Treasury, affect public, private, and homeschooling education in America? Well, Dr. Trammell has some expertise on that and informed us how he's hitting the campaign trail, traveling all across the Peach State.
These crooks in Minnesota, these crooked politicians and dirty cops. They're dirty cops, they're dirty politicians. Waltz is a dirty, crooked politician. The Attorney General is a crooked guy. He's no investigations, and I hope JD's going to do a great job. He's in charge of it now with somebody who's very talented. But I think it's easy stuff. They say $19 billion, think of it, is missing. $19 billion. You know, if we would solve half of the fraud problem, Pam, in this country, we would have more than a balanced budget. We'd have a surplus. And in the case of Minnesota, it's very Somalia-oriented. Think of it. These people come from a crooked country, disgusting country, one of the worst countries in the world. Acknowledged to be one of the worst countries in the world. Some people say it's the worst. They have no money, they have nothing. They come to our country, low IQs, and they rob us blind. Stupid people. And they rob us blind because we have crooked politicians and we have dirty cops. The Attorney General's a dirty cop. It's my opinion. It's only my opinion. And something should be done about him. Let's see what kind of job he can do.
And there, President Trump speaking on the Minnesota leadership. We know from earlier in the year, the Somali fraud, really a terrible country. I mean, there's no other way to put it, with $19 billion that has been found, and even discussions at CPAC talking about that other fraud that might be in California to Illinois to New York, all deeply blue states and municipality cities that are clearly turning their backs on the American citizen. We've played the clip over and over from the State of the Union, where President Trump stating that government in its full function and form should support the American citizen, the American resident. And we saw that the Democrats did not seem to support that. They wanted to put illegal aliens first, and that is really the reasoning behind all of this stalling on the Save America Act, to what you have seen with the defunding of the Department of Homeland Security through TSA and playing these political games on Capitol Hill. They know that you have to show a voter ID in order to go out and vote, prove that citizenship, that they will lose those votes. They are now the party of the criminal illegal alien. And it's remarkable to watch on a daily basis. But we can head over now to Dr. Trammell and his comments of what he's dealing with on the ground there in Georgia, where you actually have to show that ID. It's not hard to do, just like many other things we do in American life, and it makes sure that your vote remains safe. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Once again, it's Dr. Randall Trammell. He's running for Georgia State School Superintendent, also President and CEO of the Georgia Center for Civic Engagement. Dr. Trammell, how's the campaign trail coming up to the May 19th primary?
Listen, my friend, we are wide open. Last night I was able to check off county number 154. Out of 159. So between now and probably the second week in April, I will have been to all counties in Georgia, which is something that none of my opponents have yet to accomplish.
Very well done. It's a big state to get through. I think that people see it on a map and they think, oh, that's not so large, but it really is when you go county by county. I last saw you in Sandy Springs a couple weekends ago over at that Frontline conference. Just outstanding to see really grassroots activism, some of the best in the business, because they're precinct committeemen. They're people who solely care about the future of the Peach State.
That's right. And that was a great event. Had a good turnout, and of course it was a wonderful opportunity for the crowd to see me with some of the other folks in this race and hear what we have to say, and some of their non-conservative tendencies, I think, came out with some of the candidates. So we were very pleased to win that straw poll by 13 points. So it was a good day.
Yes, a big indicator of the grassroots. Do you see a number of the races, including your own, perhaps going to a runoff? Because Georgia, very unique amongst the country with that runoff system.
Yeah, I actually do. I mean, so in Georgia, we have to get 50% of the vote plus one. And anytime you have more than two candidates in a race, that's nigh on impossible. So in my particular race for state school superintendent, there are 5 candidates. I was talking with one of the lieutenant governor candidates this morning, and there are 7 in that race. So I would imagine just with the popularity of all the contests this election cycle, you're going to see some runoffs there on June 16th.
So goes Georgia, so goes the nation as I see it. And right now you have a situation where Georgia is, by many accounts, the #1 state to do business in the entire nation, but 37th or less when it comes to education. A lot of this is because of COVID and people moving to the southeast. So how do you focus on increasing educational opportunities, both public and private, and homeschooling, but also with President Trump's cabinet meeting from a national perspective? You have Secretary Bessent and Secretary Hegseth both saying, so goes national security, so goes the economy. I would argue, so goes both of those, so goes Georgia's education system and the education as a whole of our nation. So how do we give opportunities to everyone regardless of zip code?
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. The future is going to be decided 100% by education today. And so we have clear marching orders. And, sadly, while COVID was certainly a bump in the road for education, we've actually gone farther. We were on a downward trend in education in Georgia before COVID actually happened. So how do you get back to it? Many folks are referring to the Mississippi miracle. I think you and I may have talked about it the last time we were on with each other, where they really went back to the basics, and they made sure that those students, particularly 3rd grade and below, could read. And what they found in Mississippi and Alabama and some of the other southern states are following suit is that once students can read, then their other scores start to creep up as well, math and science and social studies. A troubling statistic is that 3rd grade reading level is linked to the number of beds that we need to build in the prisons in the future. If you were to go look and I was talking to the assistant commissioner of Georgia Department of Corrections a couple of weeks ago, and he said, if you look at who our parolees are and who our prisoners are, 80% of them can't read. And so literacy is at the very heart of what we do. And we just really have to get back and make the main thing the main thing.
Yes, education is a great equalizer, something in regards to, I would not have agreed with them on everything, but the late Jesse Jackson and Governor Jeb Bush, very big on education, advancing that in America. Now, we have Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, trying to put herself out of the job. How does that relate to the Peach State and moving forward to work in intergovernmental ways to bring, again, the hallmark of education to every single student throughout the state?
Yeah, so when Linda McMahon, Secretary McMahon, was in Georgia 2 months ago, I was actually privileged to be in a small group with her. There were 7 of us in the room with the Secretary, including my wife, and she said exactly that. The Department of Education on the national level will be closing. And so I said, well, Secretary McMahon, what is the time frame on that? And she said that it would be within 2 years, it would be completely wrapped up. So I think that's wonderful because if you look at since the establishment of the Department of Education in the Carter administration, our test scores have not increased. Our comprehension and our ranking in the world in terms of education has not increased. What it has done is it has just increased the bureaucracy. And so what's going to happen is those funds are going to come directly to the states. As a Republican, I believe that smaller government, the closer that government is to the people, the better decisions can be made. And that's why it's so important that we have a state school superintendent in Georgia who is serious about the job, who will show up to the meetings and will make sure to take the job seriously. And you mentioned Governor Jeb Bush. You know, one thing that he is a big proponent of, as am I, is parent choice. Now, I think he calls it school choice, but I call it parent choice because we do not co-parent with the government, I like to say. And I'm running on that platform. I certainly want to make sure that every local public school in Georgia is the cream of the crop. But until we can meet that promise to our citizens, I believe that they deserve constitutionally a choice for their children to be in a successful school.
Dr. Trammell, what does the role that you're running for actually do in essence? Because I'm sure there are many voters and viewers watching the show today asking just that question and how they can have influence in these midterms, because I could tell you it may not be true everywhere. I will give credit where credit's due, but in Georgia, a lot of choices for the future of this great state.
That's correct. So the state school superintendent is actually a position that most folks don't know about, particularly when you have a race where you've got a U.S. Senate and governor and lieutenant governor. I mean, you have to scroll on down the ballot till the number 6 or number 7th spot to even find it. So what does it do? The state school superintendent is a part of the executive branch, so along with the governor, is a constitutional officer of the state, and they serve as the chief executive officer of the agency, the Department of Education. So in that, they administer all of the funding, which, by the way, is 54% of our state's budget. They administer that funding to the local districts. They set policy and best practices, and all of the standards are set at that state level with the superintendent's office and the Department of Education and the State Board of Education to make sure that this is what our students will learn. And we go in and we help schools to do their jobs better. We also identify struggling schools. And in some cases, the Department of Education has to take over their schools to make sure that they're either on a firm financial footing or a firm academic footing. Because at the end of the day, we have a charge to make sure that every child succeeds. And when they walk across that stage, that they're not just ready for the next thing, but they are ready for life. And that's a promise that we plan on delivering on in a big way.
Now, many states in the Southeast and throughout the country beginning to partner with Turning Point USA to continue Charlie Kirk's amazing legacy of reforming educational systems. And Club America, their high school focus, now partnering with Florida, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, among others, with their governors, with their state superintendents, in respect to, they might have a different name than the office you're seeking, but in essence, a similar role. Will Georgia be able to be part of that in the future under your leadership?
Absolutely. So here in my local community where I live, one of our local high school students reached out to me and was having issues with the local administration approving the chapter here at their local school. So I went in and I met with them, and I am absolutely committed to making sure that there's equal access for those chapters on campus, that they are supported, and that students have an option to exercise their voice. I am a big supporter of Turning Point USA. In fact, just about all the staff I know here in Georgia, and I've worked directly with the Club America folks, not only that are over Georgia, but nationally, to look at those problem areas and problem school systems where they're getting pushback in this state. And I will be working with them to make sure that those students and those schools have that opportunity.
Where can we find your campaign and follow it all the way up to that midterm primary election coming up on Tuesday, May 19th?
You can find me at Trammell for Georgia. That's spelled out, Trammell, TrammellFor, GeorgiaSpelledout.com. I am also on Facebook and social media. And you know, this is something that I've been doing everywhere I go. I work for the voters, and so I give out my cell phone number. So that number for your viewers is 678-383-7618. And, you know, I've made a lot of bold promises, and I expect to be held accountable. And I work for you, the people. And again, that number is 678-383-7618. Text, call. But be prepared when you do. I will return your call, or I will return your text. Someone called last week and they're like, oh, I didn't actually think I would get you. And I'm like, well, you know, I've got a lot of time on the road, so I'm happy to talk. But anyway, yes, please follow our campaign and get involved. We'd love your help.
Civic engagement at the grassroots. Dr. Trammell, in case it becomes like Senator Lindsey Graham running back in 2016, let's make sure to film that together in case we have to destroy the cell phone. I'm only kidding, but I wish you the best on the campaign trail. And please come back and see us at Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Will do. Y'all have a great day. Thanks, my friend. Take care.
Thank you to our great sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, especially Cove Pure. CovePure.com/RSBN. Fight back against the terrible things that you could find in your tap water, from microplastics to the poisons, agricultural runoff, pesticides, and now even advertised at CPAC, the abortion pill, getting into some water systems throughout major networks in America. So that can really harm and disrupt endocrine systems to your hormones, especially if you are a man drinking that. Not intended for you whatsoever, wherever you are on that very crucial issue. But you could see there in the model that this is no larger than a coffee maker. And what's great about this machine, if you are renting, you do not need the pipes. You don't need a plumber to come over, drill holes, and then be at risk of losing your security deposit, because what you see is what you get. It's all inclusive and it doesn't cause a mess at all. So very convenient to have right there on your counter also as well. You see the temperature going up very quickly. If you enjoy a cup of tea in the morning, you don't need to steep on the stove and wait for it. If you're in a hurry to get out of the door, it happens nearly immediately. So very convenient for hot water, cold water, lukewarm water, which can be just right, whatever your needs are. CovePure.com/RSBN. And speaking with Dr. Trammell about that educational loss from COVID, did you know that JAMA Pediatrics doing a study that students drinking from the tap water can lose 2 or more points in their IQ if it's a prolonged period of time. We can have no more of that learning loss as a result of poor choices. So protect what matters most, you and your family, and your gut health especially. It all starts with the basics, with good, clean water. Drink pure, live pure. It's CovePure.com/RSBN. Take a moment, scan that QR code, And visit again covepier.com/RSBN for $250 off of this amazing reverse osmosis machine. Their ClearWave technology removing 99.9% of the impurities out of your drinking water. Really a great gift today at covepier.com/RSBN and calsheet.com/RSBN. Again, scan that QR code there. Trade on the most important events in America, whether it's the beginning of baseball season to the music scene or any other sport like March Madness in college basketball right now, or who will be the 2028 Republican nominee for president. We know that many names being thrown out there. President Trump yesterday evening in an interview saying, I think there's a few of them around that cabinet table that I've spoken about before that could be an unbeatable combo. But will Vice President J.D. Vance be at the helm? Will Secretary of State Marco Rubio make a run at it? Will Governor Ron DeSantis come into light again after the 2024 campaign? Perhaps someone else there. So make your trending political bets now. calsheet.com/RSBN. Lots of fun to have a good time with friends and predict what might happen in the future. As we are grateful for our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, let's take you over to CPAC, what's happening there in Dallas, Texas, the Lone Star State. And with cut number 6, Deputy Attorney General Blanche addressing the crowd there in Dallas, Texas.
We are treating drug dealers like the narco-terrorists that they are. Okay, and so I met with an angel mom this morning, an angel grandma who I think is going to speak at some point. And the fact that these men, mostly men, are injecting and sending poison into our country, knowing that it will kill thousands and thousands of Americans, young people, middle-aged people, your neighbors, every single year, makes them terrorists. And President Trump came in and said, I will stop that. We are now treating terrorists and treating these narco dealers as they should be treated. We're blowing them up. And we have the FBI, the DEA, the Marshals, HSI, our Border Patrol. They are arresting drug dealers every single day like we haven't seen ever in our generation.
And in that interview, Matt Schlapp and Mercedes Schlapp doing an amazing job running that. Our dear friends here at the network, thank you for leading CPAC, not only here at home domestically, but abroad and around the world in the freedom and liberty movement. CMS Deputy Administrator Klomp addressing CPAC as well with cut number 7.
Right now, America develops life-saving medications only for the rest of the world to get them for a fraction of the cost. Get this, we pay 3 times what citizens of every other wealthy nation on the planet pay for the drugs that we developed here in the United States. We fund more than half of R&D. That's a global ripoff, and that ends. That's foreign free riding under President Trump. That's the end. There's a personal cost to this, though. It's not just big numbers that we talk about. 1 in 4 Americans show up to the pharmacy counter and they don't pick up their prescription because they can't afford it. That's a moral failure. That's a global travesty, and that ends as well with one simple principle. MFN, most favored nation policy led by President Trump. What does that mean? It means that we will not pay more for a drug than any other wealthy country. That's it, starting now. It's simple, it makes sense, it's powerful, and it's powerful because it's rooted in the principle of fairness. So already, folks said this couldn't be done, by the way. We've negotiated with 17 initial pharmaceutical companies representing the majority of the pharmaceutical industry. Already we're seeing other countries show up, and they understand, they got the message. If you want to continue to access America's life-saving innovations, you're going to pay your fair share. And in the process, we've seen GLP-1s, life-saving GLP-1s that help with diabetes and cardiometabolic disease come down by half. Fertility drugs for families that are trying to grow their family that have come down by as much as 68%. This is affordability in the pockets of every American. This is fairness. This is the principle of America First negotiator that is President Trump. And that's what we've seen with most favored nation Brycene.
We want to take a moment to thank one of our most trusted sponsors, All Family Pharmacy. And if you believe in medical freedom, just like Deputy Director of CMS Klomp speaking to that point at CPAC, and if you're someone who loves freedom, the Maha movement, then allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, definitely for you, for life-saving generic off-label medications, pharmaceuticals, where you can save 25% now with code RSBN25. If you're frustrated with the healthcare system that puts bureaucracy and government first, always going through layers of red tape, then this independent American family pharmacy is what you're looking for. It's not a chain. They're not wanting to put their overlords first. In fact, they exist to serve you and your families. Things like ivermectin, antivirals, antibiotics, to even Tamiflu nasal sprays. As the temperature changes this time of year, we are going through a terrible cold and flu season. Hydrochloroquine, also to NAD+, methylene blue, over 400 generic medications that do not give you the runaround. Rather have your medicine cabinet stocked, or you could travel with them on the road during your spring break and Holy Week travels forthcoming. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, giving all those essential medications, including emergency medical kits. What happens there is you send in your order, a pharmaceutical note. If you don't have insurance, again, no red tape, no bureaucracy, but a U.S. licensed doctor on the other end will review that and send it right back to your door. So if you value convenience, this is quite nice as well. Scan that QR code there, code RSBN25 for 25% off now. And again, with spring blooming and travel uncertainty thanks to what's happening on Capitol Hill, always good to have these essential medications with you before it's too late. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And also thank you to angelpaste.com, the miracle cream that keeps on giving. I use it every day to keep my skin glowing as possible for you right here at the network. There's also the vitamin C infused orange option, both non-GMO, no chemicals, the natural facial spray. Hey, it's Friday. Go paint that town red, whether it's that first date or your 50th wedding anniversary or somewhere in between. You can look good, guys and gals, with the help of angelpaste.com. 10% off right now with code RSBN. Easy to remember. They are Christian-oriented. They hire veterans, and they are based in Spring, Texas, right off the Gulf of America in the Houston Metroplex, one of the finest areas to live, work, and play in the good old U.S. of A. It's angelpaste.com, the miracle cream that keeps on giving. 10% off now with code RSBN. And Dr. Oz at CPAC as well, talking about the Los Angeles fraud. As we discovered all that Somalian fraud in Minnesota, it seems as if these blue states and cities really wreaking havoc on the American citizen. Dr. Oz centered and focused on righting those wrongs through his work in the government.
But let me start with something that is on all of your minds, because we've been hearing from you about it, which is the fraud, the waste, and the abuse, which we believe is taking $100 billion out of our healthcare system. But more than the money, if you're willing to steal someone's cash, you're willing to steal their health and even their life. And we're witnessing this happen in states around the country. Our administration has sent letters to Minnesota, where you saw what happened with Somalians and others taking advantage of the system, an autism program that was supposed to be $3 million. They lied and got mothers to lie that their kids were autistic. That's now a $400 million budget. That's tip of the iceberg. We've deferred a fair amount of money to them already to make sure that they fix some of the past billing they've done, but there's lots more going on. Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles, has 1/3 of all the hospices in the entire country. Not California, literally in the entire country, 1/3 of our hospices are in Los Angeles. That's impossible unless you're literally looking the other way, pretending it's not happening. We're seeing fraud in New York State, where the number one job of all, Matt, the number one job of all is not retail. You think about Manhattan and Fifth Avenue, the number one job in New York State now is being a personal care assistant. Basically, you call up and say, I can't get the groceries upstairs. I want to hire my son. So the state hires your son, Federal taxpayers picking up a fair amount of the tab, most of the tab, and now that has become a jobs program in New York State, which I'm concerned about because we're hearing that unions are trying to get involved to unionize these folks, which just becomes a further grift on the system. And again, this is not a flaw for many. It's a feature of what they're doing. When they are able to do things that allow more individuals to get on these programs by law, when you sign someone up for Medicaid, you also have to offer them voter registration. So there's a lot going on here that explains why people have allowed this corruption to persist, but it's there nevertheless. And, you know, it's happening all over the country.
Truly unbelievable, as we have discovered so much of the fraud, waste, and abuse. And today, Vice President J.D. Vance underway chairing that commission that will look deeper into this through Article 2 in the executive branch of the government, as this administration continues to uncover all of this happening on a grand scale. This is, meanwhile, a Democrat in Congress charged with stealing funds. We'll have more on that story later on in the broadcast. But what's even more important potentially from even the fraud, waste, and abuse that have bankrupted not only the healthcare industry in America, but what we are seeing with the Leering Center, for example, brought to us by Nick Shirley and his amazing independent journalism, someone who had an amazing speech at CPAC. Cut number 9, Border Czar Tom Homan right there explaining why these ICE and border agents do what they do, putting themselves in harm's way, including Mr. Homan himself, who has been separated from his family, and many members of this cabinet, mind you, are actually living on military installations under surveillance and protection, and their family members as well in undisclosed locations because of the 10,000 plus threats this year alone against the administration. It's truly incredible to think that you have these experts willing to serve and give their time, talent, and treasure in the midst of danger. And Border Czar Tom Homan perhaps doing it better than anyone else.
People want to say that the Trump administration, you know, are inhumane and we're racist, right? They call me a racist, right? They'd say we're inhumane. Well, let's think about that. When 96%, illegal immigration down 96% down 96% now, which means 96% less people are coming. Now, there's been studies done that 31% of women that make that journey with the cartels admitted to being raped. If 31% admitted to being raped, how many were actually raped?
Right.
So when 96% less people coming, how many children aren't dying? How many women aren't being raped? How many pounds of fentanyl isn't getting in the country to poison Americans? How many known terrorists are getting in? No. The most humane thing you can do is secure the border and stop their horrific activity across border crime. President Trump's policies are saving thousands of lives every month.
If nothing else this weekend, share that clip with one of your neighbors who might have their head in the sand on these very crucial issues, saving lives, really the essence of why government exists in the first place, as Secretary Rubio mentioned yesterday in the cabinet meeting. Now, cut number 10. President Trump making a statement on this delay now with the Iranian government request. Please let this strategy serve to represent that I am pausing the period of an energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6, 2026 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Talks are ongoing. Despite the erroneous statements to the contrary by the fake news media and others, they are going very well. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. And with the Senate now passing in the early morning hours at least partial funding of DHS for the TSA specifically, none of the Democrat wish list got in, and that's thanks to the strength of Republican leadership. We have a new Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Markwayne Mullin. You may have heard of him, who is inheriting this mess with cut number 11. Meet this new guy who's going to clean up Washington.
Well, the question is, who am I? I'm my wife's husband. So I'm Markwayne Mullin from the great state of Oklahoma, and just recently sworn in to be Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. You know, we all think about our backyard all the time. We say, you know, this is my yard, like the football players say, this is my house, right? When I was wrestling, this is my mat, this is my home, this is my domain. I used to fight walking in a cage, this is my cage. And we all want to protect it. Now the fact that I get to protect every aspect of the homeland And that excites me because I know no one's going to fight harder for my family than I would, considering my family lives and walks all across truly the homeland. That means I get to protect it, and I'll protect your family just like I protect mine. So that's what excites me about being in a fight every single day. I sat down, took my jacket off, and I got a phone number that said 202. I typically don't answer that because when the president calls, it says DJT. But I picked it up, and it was a voice that a lot of us know. He starts talking to me. We're about 15 seconds in the conversation, and Susie, I guess, walks into the office, and he has me on speakerphone, and she says, "Congratulations." And he goes, "I haven't even told him yet." That's how I found out. But probably what prepares me more than anything, honestly, for Homeland, anybody that's been a dad understands how much you'll do to protect your family. And that same tenacity that you would literally die for your family, that same tenacity of protecting your homeland, that it's a 24-hour, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, a job that you learn to love. I love being a dad, right? I'm going to love the opportunity to be able to protect the homeland. I'm Mark Wayne Mullen, and I'm your new Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security.
And from protecting the homeland to protecting your wallet, be sure to visit wallet.rumble.com for the latest innovation from Rumble. Really a company that deserves our support. If you remember, not so long ago, we're talking 5-6 years, President Trump thrown off of Facebook, then Twitter, and how many of us were put back into a corner during COVID and worried about the future simply because of our opinions. You now have the opportunity to tip your favorite creators, including RSBN, with crypto and Tether Gold, Bitcoin, amongst other avenues. Download for free now the Rumble Wallet at Google Play or the App Store. Free speech meaning financial freedom, and we do know that big corporations, big banks, can turn you off and have done that to other Americans simply for their opinions. So imagine having all of your savings, all of your digital assets turned off with the light switch. Something quite frightening and scary. So Rumble Wallet decided to make a wallet so indestructible that even they cannot break and hack into it themselves. Once it's yours for you and your family, no one else. And Rumble Wallet leading the way on this innovation. Wallet.rumble.com. Be sure to download today. Get that on the Google Play or the App Store, whatever is convenient for your smartphone. They fought for free speech, now fighting for financial freedom. And we know it's a two-front battle in this, and we must respond peacefully and patriotically. And thank you to our dear friends over at Rumble for the wallet at wallet.rumble.com. What's great about this usage as well, you can actually enjoy Kalshi with the Rumble Wallet as well. Trending in the political sphere of all the big questions affecting America, like who will be that 2028 Republican nominee for president. Some of those front runners right now: Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Governor Ron DeSantis, Senator Ted Cruz. Hey, will Secretary of War Pete Hegseth have a political future? He's been very effective there at the Pentagon. So trade on the most important events as baseball now underway again, with America's pastime hitting the ground running over the last few hours. Who's going to be the World Series champion? Who will win out in March Madness? Will Iowa and Illinois, can you believe it? The number 9 and 3 seeds competing on Saturday. My alma mater, can they take it all the way home and break even more brackets? I hope not, but scan that QR code there now. Kalshi.com/RSBN for music, sports, politics, and more. It's America done right. You might as well have fun with some trades and bets at Kalshi.com/RSBN. We are diving into all of the big news of the week. And in case you missed it, cut number 12, President Trump having some fun with the Greek Independence Day, and His Eminence, the Archbishop of America, enjoying this time with other Greek Americans right there in the East Room of the White House.
I'm delighted to stand before you today with a truly respected man of faith and a pillar of the Greek American community, Archbishop Eli Pidophoros, who is A highly respected man, and Your Eminence, it's a great pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for coming. It's so nice. We meet once a year, and I wouldn't miss it. And to all of the Greek-American patriots here this afternoon, let me begin by wishing you a very happy Greek Independence Day. Big deal.
Like ancient Athens and the world's oldest democracy, inspiring our founding fathers in creating this constitutional republic, now going into its 250th birthday. They had election integrity way back when. We should have the same today with the Save America Act and cut number 13.
Under the Trump administration, we're reaffirming a sacred Greek principle that goes all the way back to a rocky hillside in the heart of ancient Athens, that only citizens can vote in our elections. See, they do it right. Oh, I love that. Michael, we're going to have to use that phrase a little bit more powerfully. But in Greece, that's what they believe. They've believed it for a long time. It makes a little sense. It's called common sense, isn't it, really?
But first, let's end that government shutdown brought to you by the Democrats. Some hope with the Senate passing at least a partial funding before their Easter recess. They've left town already. Amazing. Leaving the House to work with that. And cut number 14, it's time to end the Democrat shutdown, now in day 42.
May I have your attention, please? Due to Democrats, we are currently experiencing much longer than usual TSA wait times and staffing shortages. We apologize for this inconvenience. Please urge Democrats to end the shutdown so normal operations can resume.
And with their terrible messaging of calling ICE monsters and making up stories about these brave individuals, men and women who put their lives on the line to protect the homeland, we saw it once again with these long lines, ICE saving an unresponsive child with cut number 15. We'd like to take a moment to thank one of our most trusted sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, none other than allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. If you're someone who believes in medical freedom, most favored nation status, also the right to try, then this great online family pharmacy is for you. And right now, use code RSBN25 for 25% off. Who's not frustrated with the healthcare system that puts insurance companies and the government, the red tape and the bureaucracy before the patient? But All Family Pharmacy fighting back and providing these pharmaceuticals that are generic and off-label, life-saving, over 400 in fact, antibiotics to antivirals to NAD+, methylene blue, hydrochloroquine, ivermectin, and emergency medical kits that can make a massive difference. They are an independent pharmacy, not a chain. So when you reach out to them, again, no insurance and no red tape, but a pharmaceutical note for a U.S. licensed doctor to review that order and send it right back to your door. So very convenient as well. And this U.S. physician review will give you the ability to get the prescriptions you need, if appropriate, when you're traveling on the road for spring break. And we know with the change of temperatures comes allergies, travel uncertainty, also Tamiflu, so important to have on hand with the cold and flu season still in full effect, one of the largest we've seen in a number of years. So be prepared, especially when you are traveling. And if you're staying at home still, good to have this on hand in your medicine cabinet so you're ready instead of having to scramble last minute. Avoid those long lines at the urgent care and simply the pharmacies, the chains that won't prescribe these life-saving medications. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Scan the QR code there now. Code RSBN25 for 25% off. Now, we've seen international disputes and monetary uncertainties recently with what's happening overseas. So as the dollar goes down, be sure to text Trump to 989898. National debt, digital currency, all these things affect your property values, to your savings, and what you're doing to diversify what could keep you strong in a financial market and financially sound, healthy, just like we are focused on this broadcast. 700%. Yes, 700%. That's what gold has gone up by in the last 2 decades. So diversify your 401k, your IRA. Get that free info kit on gold. You have nothing to lose, in fact, with Birch Gold Group, the best in the business. This never-ending reasons for smart Americans to invest and diversify with things like gold and silver and tangible metals. More than any other commodity on earth, gold thrives when monetary disputes and paper currency hit the ceiling. And with that uncertainty, it's smart to have a tax-sheltered option like gold and silver and, again, tangible metals that have stood the test of time. So diversify your savings with gold. Text Trump to 989898. Easy to remember. And make sure you get ahead on that. There's not a one-size-fits-all, mind you. A lot of people go into the gold savings and think, oh, this is just everything for everyone. No, everyone's different in what they need immediately to down the road with their savings. And Birch Gold Group, the experts there, happy to help you out with that. Get that free info kit now on gold IRAs. Text Trump to 989898. As we are awaiting the president himself to hold a great agriculture celebration there at the White House. We will take you there when that does occur. And as we are looking to end that Democrat shutdown, we'll have hopefully some updates soon from the United States House of Representatives today. We continue to see the word salad from, no, not Kamala Harris, the former vice president, but the sitting congresswoman from the Bronx, AOC. She is so entertaining at times. And cut number 16, how she cannot articulate any sort of message, just like her party.
This is such a, I think that this is of course a very long-standing policy.
Want to get away? Too bad. In many airports, Democrats are making flying an awful experience for travelers. Expect continued growing TSA lines and unpaid staff until the Democrats decide to reopen the government. Thank a Democrat today.
Will AOC challenge crying Chuck Schumer? We will see if that primary will happen. With cut number 17, President Trump making clear that the radical left Democrats and their leader, crying Chuck Schumer, really holding up the government and have made it clear where they stand, and that is on the side of criminal illegal aliens, not the American people. They are refusing to fund immigration enforcement unless the Republicans agree to their open border policies, which will never ever happen again. They almost destroyed the country, allowing 25 million people to enter from prisons, mental institutions, and insane asylums. Those that are drug dealers and thousands of murderers, many of whom killed more than one person. Because the Democrats have recklessly created a true national crisis, I am using my authorities under the law to protect our great country, as I will always do. Therefore, I am going to sign an order instructing the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen, to immediately pay our TSA agents in order to address this emergency situation and to quickly stop the Democrat chaos at the airports. It is not an easy thing to do, but I'm going to do it. I want to thank all of our hardworking TSA agents and also ICE for the incredible help they have given us at the airports. I will not allow the radical left Democrats to hold our country hostage any longer. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Signed there, President Donald J. Trump. And another big win from the international Olympic community with their turning around the male in female sports. So an exciting thing to see there as we are going to the White House any moment from now for President Trump to hold a great agriculture celebration, something so big to look at with the Chinese Communist Party trying to buy up our farmland. We know our very own favorite Senator Tommy Tuberville running for governor of Alabama, focused on reversing that, as is Senator Marsha Blackburn in the volunteer state of Tennessee, and all those Confucius Institutes that were once on our campuses now being rescinded as we see the Chinese Communist Party. Right, man, their backs are against the ropes with this president in office, and a MAGA leadership focused on making America not only great again, but safe and healthy again with what's happened. I mean, this large conversation about glyphosates and the pesticides in our agriculture as well, something that Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been very, very keen on removing, if at all possible. So as we watch all of this happening and the great work being done by Brooke Rollins at the Department of Agriculture, really her and Health and Human Services working in intergovernmental agencies to make America healthy again, our farmers and ranchers are to be thanked on a regular basis for reopening so many of our markets to new customers. Did you know for a period of time, Europe would not purchase American poultry, American meats, and other commodities because of the use of many chemicals and pesticides, something this administration has attempted to tackle at the highest level. So we are grateful for all of our farmers and ranchers throughout the good old US of A. You will not find people perhaps with more common sense than those there at working the fields and the farms here in America. So a lot of news this week as we look forward to this event at the White House, a great agriculture celebration with President Trump. And later on today, for a programming note, be sure to tune in at 4:30 Eastern, as the president has a big schedule today. So lots for you here in the broadcast at Right Side Broadcasting Network, your number one source for political events, your go-to live desk and rally network right here in Auburn, Alabama, as we cover the federal government for you inside and outside of the Beltway. Let's toss it there now to the White House.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to have you at this beautiful house. It's a beautiful house. There's no other house like it. I've seen them all, believe me, and this one is tops. But I'm thrilled to welcome all of you to the South Lawn for the single largest gathering of American farmers that the White House has ever seen, has ever had. And rain or shine, and you don't mind rain, shine. The one thing about farmers, they don't care about that weather. They get out there, it makes no difference. But rain or shine, no one is more grit or greater spirit than the American farmer. We love the American farmer. I just gave you $12 billion. I don't know if you know that or not. You make enough money, it doesn't matter to you, right? But we just provided $12 billion, right, Brooke, for the American farmer. You think Biden would have done that? No, he wouldn't have done. We're delighted to be joined by Secretary of Agriculture, who's doing a fantastic job, Brooke Rollins. Brooke, thank you very much. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert, Bobby. EPA Administrator is doing such an incredible job. He's getting those costs down for you, and he's always protecting the environment, but he does it quickly. A real superstar, Lee Zeldin. Thank you, Lee. Great job. And someone everyone loves, and they love in particular the job she's doing, Small Business Administrator Kelly Loeffler. Kelly, thank you very much. Thanks as well to John Hoven, Joni Ertz, Pete Ricketts, along with the chairman of the House Agricultural Committee, G.T. Thompson, and I tell you, they're fantastic people, that they are warriors, and representatives Jim Baird, Randy Feenstra, Monica De La Cruz, Brad Finstad, Michelle Fishback, Mark Messmer, Victoria Sparts, Frank Lucas, Tracy Mann, Zach Nunn, Adrian Smith, and Derek Van Orden. They're all out here. They want your votes desperately, desperately. They're only here for your vote, you know that. But they're here because actually they did a great job. Those were people that were the most, I would say, the most aggressive for the farmer, which is what we want. Other than me, they were right in there. I was more aggressive than any of them. But also with us is the CEO of Tractor Supply, Hal Lawton, who will soon open the company's 2,500th store in honor of America's 250th. Hal, thank you very much. It was great to meet you at the Oval Office 2 minutes ago. I also want to thank the president of the American Farm Bureau Federation, Zippy Duval. I've known Zippy for a long time. Zippy's been with me right from the beginning, right, Zippy? From day one, he liked Trump. He said, well, I don't know, but I just had a good meeting with him. I'm going to go with Trump, right? That was in 2015. And very special thanks to the proud young parents of two beloved American institutions, Future Farmers of America and 4-H. Two great ones. For 4 disastrous years before I took office, Sleepy Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress crushed America's farmers with the worst inflation in the history of our country. Prices were going through the roof. So bad, it was so bad what they had done to our country, and by the way, in so many other ways too, borders and everything else. But they crippled the American agriculture industry with brutal restrictions and failed to negotiate even a single new trade deal on your behalf. Not one trade deal was negotiated on your behalf during the Biden administration, and we happen to be the exact opposite. We have so many trade deals, we don't know what the hell to do with them. We need more lawyers. But now the American farmers, ranchers, growers, and producers once again have a true friend and champion in the Oval Office. And in my first year back in the White House, farm income has soared by 20% very quickly. I repealed the Biden EPA's ridiculous water restrictions. You had water restrictions that gave you everything but water. Yet it needed a little water. They wouldn't give you it. It was crazy. To keep federal bureaucrats off your land and out of your pockets, it's a big deal. With the help of Republicans in Congress, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history. Already 45% of filers have taken advantage of our new tax provisions, with an average refund so far of almost $5,000, a record. In fact, we passed them, and people are just starting to see how important they are. It's amazing what's happened. The numbers are, they're reporting that it's much more money than I thought. I tell you, I call it the Great Big Beautiful Bill. Is a great big beautiful bill, and it's especially in terms of your tax refunds and your taxes, because it's the lowest tax we pay. It's the biggest tax reduction in the history of our country. It's also the biggest regulation reduction in the history of our country, which, as farmers, you know what that means. It means a lot of good things. We made the small business tax deduction permanent. benefiting 98% of America's farmers and ranchers. And thanks to bonus depreciation, farmers can now deduct 100% of the cost of new tractors and all equipment in the first year. In other words, you buy a tractor, you deduct the whole price. Normally it goes over a 38-year period. This is slightly better. You got these tiny little deductions that weren't even worth it. Now you can do it at one time. Only Trump could have gotten you that one. That was a big thing. And in the first term, you know, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country in the first term. We are blowing them away right now. And by the way, we're doing really well in Iran, just so you understand. You know, I mean, how good is our military? How good is our military? Very importantly, we saved 2 million American farms from extinction by virtually ending the unfair estate tax. We've ended the estate tax, or as they call it, the death tax, and you can now keep your family farms in the family. We had a problem. See, these are all people that are clapping that love their children. If they didn't love their children, they wouldn't care about what I just said. But most of you, does anybody not love your child? Because that would be the one person that would have clapped the other way. No, it's a big thing. I would see farmers, and they pass away. They love their life. They love this. There's something about a farmer, maybe more than anybody else. They love that. They love the soil, and they love their farms. And they'd pass away, and they'd have wonderful children, and the children would get hit with this massive tax bill for the value of the farm. Sometimes the farm is very valuable, but the cash isn't so readily available. And they'd go out to a bank and they'd borrow money, and they'd borrow and borrow and borrow to pay the tax. They'd be working for 20 years to pay it off. If they had a bad season, they'd lose their farm. We lost it many, many times. And you'd have actually many, many suicides over it. They would actually commit suicide because they couldn't stand the concept of losing their family farm. And I ended the death tax, or the estate tax, on family farms and small businesses. So I think you're appreciative of that. It was a terrible thing. It's too bad that so many people in the past couldn't have taken advantage of it, because it would have made a lot of happy people out of people that really have had a miserable life. When they lose their farm, they're never the same. They're never the same. And I hope our farmers never forget that every single Democrat in Congress voted against all of the provisions I just mentioned, including the estate tax. And Republicans, all of these Republicans have stood strong and fought hard and gotten it. But the Democrats voted against every single provision that I just mentioned, including the tax reductions and including, frankly, the estate tax. But we delivered. The Republicans delivered for the farmers, and it was not easy because the opposition to farmers by Democrats is very strong. Thanks to our trade deals, you're now sending over $40 billion in American soybeans to China. I want to thank President Xi of China, because we had a deal at 20, and I said, could you do me a favor? It's a big place. Could you double it? And he said, what are you talking about? I said, could you make it 40 instead of 20? And he overrode all of his people. He said, all right, I'll do it. And you got 40 instead of 20. So now you go out and buy bigger tractors. What can I tell you? Remember when that was announced, everybody was surprised. Everybody thought it was going to be 20. He was very good. But the American soybeans are now being shipped to China in record amounts, and we expanded markets for American beef, dairy products, biofuels across Asia, Europe, South America, like we've never had before. Our farmers and agricultural producers do not want handouts. They really don't. The farmers come to my office a lot, and they just, sir, please just give us a level playing field. Others want more than that. They want everything. The farmers want a level playing field, and I talk about it all the time. That's all they want, because you were just the last 4 years before this one, before our great first year, we have records in so many categories. But during the past administration, you were treated really badly, and you were treated badly by the world because you had nobody that cared about defending you. But you want that fair shot and a level playing field, and I'm giving that to you. And I think I'm actually giving you much better than a level playing field. I'm giving you a field that goes like this. Makes it a lot easier for you, the things that we've done. And to further help farmers recovering from the Biden catastrophe, we use money taken from tariffs. The tariffs, we've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars from the tariffs. And as I said, we gave you $12 billion in farm relief. And that happened just recently because you were hurt by certain countries unfairly. And I said you were unfairly hurt, and we gave you $12 billion, and that made up for it. I'm also asking Congress to quickly pass the new farm bill, and today I'm promising to request additional farm relief for our great patriots in the next funding bill. So we have you taken care of in both instances, and we're pushing very hard for the new farm bill. The Democrats fight us. I don't know the Democrats fight us on farm bills, and they always have. They are not your natural politician. Any farmer that votes for a Democrat is crazy. They are brutal on the farmers. One of the Americans benefiting from our policies and new market access is Joel Vyrek, a fourth-generation farmer from Woolwich Township, New Jersey. Joel, he really has a great story to tell. Please, Joel, come up and tell that story.
I just want to say thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to speak today and for having this event and inviting us all here. I'm a vegetable farmer from Woolwich Township, New Jersey. We farm a few hundred acres where we specialize in Jersey fresh tomatoes. I do that along with my family. Also, I guess most importantly today, as you spoke about the farm bill, I just urge Congress to pass the farm bill. It's vital to everything that we do. Everything from financing to crop insurance, and it's vital to the USDA and the farm credit system. Also, we appreciate the bridge payments, your policy on trade, everything. It's going to help strengthen what we do. So I just want to thank you again for just everything you're doing to make America great again.
You know, while I'm up here, I'm looking around. I love construction. You see all those nice Caterpillars and John Deeres. We have a lot of John Deeres. That's a big dig. And we're building a ballroom for 150 years. They've wanted, every president said, could we have a ballroom, please? A room where you could have a lot of people. So when the president of China, France, when somebody comes over from the UK, including the king, we have the king coming over very shortly, and King Charles. So we can have like a large room, because the White House is incredible, but it was never had a ballroom. And we're building, that'll be the finest ballroom anywhere in the world when it's completed. And I'm just looking at the construction. In fact, if you don't mind, I'll walk over there and look for a little while. Then I'll come back and I'll continue to speak. I love construction. I love building beautiful things. But you're going to have something very, really tremendously. And thank you, Joel. And every day we're looking for new ways to support our farmers, reduce your costs, and to help lower the price of food for the American family. Last month, we issued a major new rule declaring that farmers have a right to repair your own equipment. Can you believe that one? And that action will save the typical farmer up to $30,000 on major repairs. I mean, I heard about this. I said, you got to be kidding. You don't have the right to fix. These guys can fix anything, but you didn't have the right to fix your own equipment. We ended that rather quickly, and now you do. And I did another thing, and I'll explain it in a second, because we had a ridiculous Washington restriction called the so-called diesel exhaust fluid requirement. Do you know about that? It was a basic disaster. Today, we're announcing new guidelines drastically limiting these ridiculous DEF rules, saving farmers and consumers billions and billions of dollars. And when I was in Iowa recently, I met a man who was the chairman of John Deere, great company. And I asked him, I said, could I ask you a question? We cut a lot of the restrictions, almost all of them, on cars. What have we done for tractors and trucks and different things that you use on the farms? He said, sir, they never got to us. They never did that. I said, well, we're going to have to, that was about 2 months ago. We've worked very hard, and Lee is working on that. It's a top priority. I told him, Lee Zeldin, a top priority. So when you buy a tractor today, you spend 50% of your time fixing the environmental impact statement garbage that's on the tractor. In fact, I buy a lot of things that having to do with farm equipment, where I own clubs and other things. And I said, give me 10-year-old equipment. Do you have any 10-year-old equipment that hasn't been used yet? And whenever they had it, I would buy it, because it was much better than the new stuff, which has so much environmental nonsense on it that it ends up costing thousands of dollars more to produce, and it doesn't work well. Too complicated. And then you'll get somebody that is a farm worker, and he's looking at heavy computerized environmental equipment, and you have where the tractor will turn off if the environmental equipment isn't working. It was an automatic turn off. It did absolutely nothing for the environment. It cost you $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a machine. And to save fuel, many of you are working over massive deposits of fuel. To save a quarter of a glass of fuel, this much, just a little bit, they'll have 2 extra computers in it that never worked. And I said to the head of John Deere, is this a good thing or a bad thing? He said, sir, you have no idea how bad it is. It's made our tractors so complicated. You need a major degree from MIT in order to turn on a tractor. We want to go back to the old way, sir. And I said, I agree with you 100%. And we are working very hard and very quickly to get rid of the horrible chains placed on tractor suppliers. That's a beautiful tractor. That's a gold tractor. Somebody had me in mind. What's that all about? That's a hell of a tractor. I'm looking at this. That's a good one, too, red, white, and blue. But somebody really hit me with that one. That's beautiful. Well, but so we are going to be, Lee, I think we can say, I know you're in the process, cutting out massive amounts of nonsense that are mandated to be put on your tractors and all of your trucks that costs you a fortune. And I know that they're going to do this, and I asked him, you got to promise me one thing. You're not going to take it in profits. You're going to lower the cost of a tractor. I want you to lower the cost, and if they don't lower the cost, you'll let me know, and I'll have to do a big number in those companies, okay? Because they're going to be able to very shortly produce a bigger, better tractor at substantially less money. It's going to be better. It's going to be a better tractor at substantially less money. It's going to be more reliable. It's not going to be turning off every 15 seconds because a computer went haywire that you don't need. You're going to have a better tractor for less money, but I want John Deere and Case and all of their great companies, Caterpillar. I want all of them. Got a lot of Caterpillars in there all over the place. I look forward to seeing them later. But I want these companies to give it to you in the form of lower tractor and equipment costs. And I think it's going to have a huge impact. And Lee, when you do this, I really want you to mandate to the companies to sell the equipment cheaper, not to get the same price and make a spread of, could be $6,000 or $7,000 a machine. So we'll work on that together, okay? Thank you very much, everybody. I think it's going to be a great thing. We're working on it very hard. So Americans love our farmers, and to make it easier for consumers to choose products raised by ranchers like Michael, we recently announced a brand new food label. It's Product of the USA. I love that. Product of the USA. We have another one called Made in the USA. That's better for a car. I like US product for the USA. I hadn't heard that, but it's good. They want the USA product. When Americans see those words in grocery stores, they'll know that it was raised, harvested, and processed by the greatest farmers and ranchers anywhere on the face of the earth. You are the greatest. Nobody even close. Just like we have the greatest military, we have the greatest, most powerful military in the world by far. We have the greatest farmers also. Thanks. And thanks to your hard work and incredible productivity, we're slashing the prices of key staples for American families. The cost of cheese, butter, potatoes, and fruit many, many other products is lower today than when I took office. Eggs are down, as an example, 60% from when I took office. And we have others coming down, and beef is starting to come down. Beef was an amazing thing. I was told by Brooke, I said, I don't really believe it. They wanted to have less cattle in the country for environmental reasons. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what that means? Can you believe it? Who would think of this? These are sick people. No, they want less cattle for environmental reasons. It has something to do with gas permeating throughout the air. And that's what happened. And the number of cattle was way down. I said, what happened? They were mandated, they were restricted for that reason. These people are crazy. But anyway, we got rid of that one too. That was an easy one. If I said this 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, people wouldn't even believe what I'm saying. It's like men playing in women's sports. Would you believe we have an argument over that? Men playing in women's sports. Did you ever see the weightlifting record? It stood for 19 years. Women, great women athletes, they got up there. And then a man came along who happened to transition, and the record was broken by 119 pounds. And he was a bad weightlifter. It's true. He was a failed male weightlifter. He shattered the record. I would say that's not good. So we are bringing all that back to normalcy too. And look what happened at the Olympics. The Olympic Committee, the heads of the Olympics just announced there will be no men playing in women's sports. Who else could have done that? You think that was easy? That wasn't easy. That was not easy. It's probably, they say it's an 80-20. No, I think it's a 99-1 issue, and nobody can find the one. To help lower gasoline prices for farmers and consumers, this week I issued an emergency order to allow immediate sales of E15 and just as I promised in the campaign, I'm seeking congressional action to allow E15 all year round, okay? And I'm trusting Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune, they're two good men. I'm trusting them to find a deal that works for farmers, consumers, and refiners, including small and mid-sized refiners. And they're going to send me a bill, and we should be able to get that done. We've worked with the refiners before, and we're going to get that done. Today, I'm also announcing a dramatic update to the renewable fuel standards for 2026 and 2027. A big problem, what they've done to you is, and the country, what they've done to the country is just incredible. The environmentalists, they are terrorists. They were terrorists. I call them the environmental terrorists, and will now be requiring the highest volumes of renewable fuels in history. These new standards will generate over $10 billion of rural economic benefit, create an estimated 100,000 new jobs, and massively increase our nation's energy supply. It'll come right out of the farms. In addition, to help bring down grocery costs even more, today I'm pleased to announce that the Small Business Administration, that's Kelly, is opening up massive new loan guarantees for farmers and food suppliers, including vegetable farmers, grain farmers, and seed farmers, cattle, pig, and poultry producers, grocery wholesalers, and many more. So if you're in the industry, Kelly, you better get ready. You're going to be inundated, right? It's the first time that's happened. And when they say she's the head of small business, when you add it all up, it's got to be the biggest, it's like the biggest bank in the world or something. It's nothing small about it. But you'll do a job, Kelly, right? Help them out, right? From Texas to Kansas, from Iowa to Idaho, and from Minnesota. Did I hear Minnesota? How is Minnesota doing? What's going on? What's going on in Minnesota with that crazy governor, that crooked, corrupt governor? How about the Attorney General? Do you think he's a dirty cop? You think he's a dirty cop? All right, we'll get Minnesota back. We'll take it back from Somalia. Not you believe? Do you believe these people come from Somalia? They have nothing. It's not. They come. Somalia is considered the worst country. It's not even a country, like the worst country in the world. The worst. They come over here, and they steal $19 billion. We'll get it straightened out. It's happening. Our vice president is in charge of a new division. It's called the Fraud Division. You know, if we straighten out half the fraud that took place in this country over the years, we'd have not only a balanced budget, we'd have a big surplus. So we're going to get it done. We're going to get it done. But from Minnesota to Mississippi, we're lifting up our hardworking farmers and ranchers and growers, and we're putting more money in American pockets. We're going to prove that the golden age of American agriculture is right here and right now. And I want to ask, just if you would you come up and say something? Because I'll tell you what, come on over here. This is a great farmer. Would you just tell your quick story, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Michael Cliver, and I operate my family's ranch in Westfield, Pennsylvania, Doble Circle D Farms. And the work that you guys have done, it's unexplainable how big it is for the American farmer and the next generation that don't have to headache and don't have to worry about the death tax. It's astounding what you guys have done. It's absolutely spectacular. And also the working family tax cut policies, that allowed us to get my daughter a Trump account, and we can teach her fiscal responsibility, compound interest, and investment, and plan for her future. And it's just absolutely astounding what you've done with that. Also, your energy policies. Up in Potter and Tioga County, Pennsylvania, the gas companies are leasing mineral rights again actively, and that's putting money back into the farmers' pockets up there too. So for all that, I applaud you and thank you, Mr. President.
I'm glad I called him up. I didn't know who the hell he was. He's standing up. You know, he's standing. We went through one, and I said, there's another guy, but they don't have anything about. But you did it. It's an extremely good job you did, huh? Wow. Thank you very much. I do want to say, do you mind if I step over here and just look at that tractor for a second? Because I assume it's a gift to me. That's crazy. It's beautiful. Oh, that is really something. Well, thank you very much for the gift. I appreciate it. Oh, boy. Can you imagine if I accepted that gift, what they would do? A Democrat can accept. We're not allowed to accept. No, but that's a beautiful machine. We make the greatest machines. That's a beautiful, beautiful machine. I'd like to ask a very special woman to step up. You know, Brooke, I always said, could run any company in the world. She could run these big companies. She's a great executive. And we've talked about it. My wife's actually said, you know, Brooke could be an executive anywhere. That doesn't mean you're leaving, okay? But when I had a chance, I said, what about Department of Agriculture? I had no idea that she has like a PhD in agriculture. She went to school on agriculture. I would have put her there even if she didn't. But she's so highly trained, and she loves it, and she loves the farmers just like I do, and ranchers and everybody else having to do with this very special world that you live in. And Brooke has really been a star, and I want to thank you very much and say a few words.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. Sir, the first thing I want to say is when we had that unexpected conversation about this job, November 21st of 2024, I've often said that sometimes you have plans for yourself, but then God and Donald Trump redirect your plan. 1 year in, I can't tell you the honor, the joy, the blessing of getting to fight every day. There is no better job than this. Even President, I believe, there is no better job than being your 33rd Secretary of Agriculture. And Mr. President, thank you for your trust. It's just incredible. Not in our lifetime. The President and I on our walk over here, we're talking about how the farmers, the ranchers, rural America, we are your people, sir. From the moment he came down the golden escalator to today, No one has stood more proudly, more strongly, more courageously for this man, this transformational president at this moment in our country's history than you all, our farmers and ranchers. I want everyone to get to their feet and just thank him for what he has done for our community, for our farmers and ranchers. He's the best, the best. Never cry in trouble, but yeah, I'm so grateful. So grateful. A couple of other really special people. I know we have some friends in from Pennsylvania. We have some amazing Amish farmers. And I started thinking, I maybe shouldn't do this because I don't think they like the recognition, but they drove all the way here. If they're willing to stand up, let us thank you for making such an effort and your wonderful support for our president. I was told that even a new dress was made for this event, and I know this is out of the box a little bit for you and your amazing community, but I know on behalf of our Pennsylvanians and others, we're so grateful for you and your leadership. I also want to do a big shout out to Senator Hoeven, Senator Ernst, our congressman, Senator Ricketts, who fought so hard to get rural America in the one big, beautiful bill. You all deserve so much credit. It was the largest investment in rural America for our farmers and ranchers in American history. This man drove it, but you guys executed, and we're so grateful to you. So thank you. Thank you. Also, very quickly, my mom is on the front row. State legislator Helen Kerwin, thanks to Donald Trump, is doing remarkable work for us in Texas. My beautiful sister. We talked about, Mr. President, the future of farming with a faith born not of words but of deeds. You have the FFAers and the 4-Hers here. We're so glad you are our future, and we are so grateful. Thank you. And speaking of the FFA, sir, my ag teacher from 35 years ago came all the way from Glen Rose, Texas. Mr. Rosenbush, stand up. I love you. There were a few times he put me in the back of the bus for being too sassy, and we've come a long way, Mr. Rosenbush. God bless you, and thank you for everything you mean. Listen, everyone, the president did it so well. What we inherited when we came in just over a year ago, we left with an agricultural trade surplus when we walked out of here in January of 2021. We came back with an agricultural trade deficit of $50 billion. Not one new trade deal under the Biden administration. When we left, the cost of inputs were 40% less for our farmers and ranchers than when we came back 4 years later. We inherited a mess, but this president understands that there is no more American of the Americans than our farmers and ranchers and the pioneering spirit that you all represent. And today on the South Lawn of the White House, to have the largest gathering of farmers in American history at this White House is historical. It will go down in the record books. I believe this president will be remembered as the president and our administration with Bobby, with Lee, and with Kelly, who are all here, my best friends from the cabinet, across the cabinet, as the moment in American history where we reversed the trend, where we stopped losing family farms, where we fought for rural America because it is the very, very best of who we are. And that began with this president, with his leadership, and we just couldn't be more grateful. God bless you, Donald Trump. God bless America, and God bless our farmers and ranchers. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
So the Farm Bill is going to happen. It's all going to happen. And I just want to thank you all for being here. You're very, very special people. I'll never forget, we won like such a number, like nobody's ever won before. You voted for me. I will never forget that. I'll never forget the friendship, the great friendship that we've had. And we've got a lot more to do, Brooke, and we're going to do it, and we're going to get it done very fast, very, very, very fast. And thank you all for being at the White House. Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Celebrating our farmers and ranchers there at the White House as President Trump commenting on the death tax, otherwise known as the estate tax, the farm bill all happening. No better advocate for farming and agriculture than this president and his team, including Brooke Rollins there from the Department of Agriculture in that great Lone Star State where her mom is a state rep. I did not know that, out of the 58th district. God bless the Rollins family. As you have Newsom out in California signing a bill to rename Cesar Chavez Day as Farm Workers Day because he is woke. And also Cesar Chavez, may God rest his soul, did you know he was against illegal immigration? As you can donate right here on the right side of history. It's all viewer funded here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, rsbnetwork.com/donate. We deeply appreciate everything you can give. If you'd like to visit rsbnetwork.com/donate to help, you can do so right there. Or send a check or money order to 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. It's the loveliest village on the plains. Some farming and agriculture in this part of East Alabama as well. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama 36830, with gorgeous video and photos from the 2024 campaign as these midterms are underway. Your go-to live desk, rally network, and the #1 source for political events right here in the United States. It's Right Side Broadcasting Network. Also, thank you to the great Mike Lindell, running for governor of Minnesota. The mattress and topper sale as low as $99.99 with promo code RSBN plus free shipping. Take advantage of that today. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network by visiting mypillow.com/RSBN. 2,000 different options there at the website. Another big supporter of our farmers, the great Mike Lindell, as well as I know that he is interested as well as we are at the Prairie State, and Darren Bailey, a farmer running for governor of Illinois. But with 2,000 different options, you can choose from the My Slippers to the My Pillow 1.0, 2.0, the My Coffee. I could smell it from here. I might have a cup of joe in between shows today, to the mattress and topper sale. Again, as low as $99.99 plus free shipping with code RSBN. Thank you to Mike Lindell, all American made in the great state of Minnesota. mypillow.com/RSBN. And as I mentioned earlier, roughly 3 hours from now, join us at 4:30 as the president traveling to Miami, Florida, right now this afternoon. So be sure to catch us in our next broadcast. In the meantime as well, broadcasting CPAC Live. So be sure to tune in for that, as you might catch a Friday lunch in somewhere in between shows as you're catching all of that great action in Dallas, Texas. For all of my colleagues here on the right side of history, I'm Robert McNeely. Be sure to join us once again about 3 hours from now at 4:30. In the meantime, be good, and we'll see you again very soon.